Welcome into the Bears Squad Show. I'm Joe George, post-game host, and I hope before the Ravens game, Drew Dahlman learns how to snap the ball to Caleb Williams.
I'm Adam Sager. Defense was flying around, and they create 4 more turnovers.
And I'm Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears, and all of a sudden, is DeAndre Swift the Bears' best weapon on offense?
Bear down, Chicago. It's the Bears Squad. Everything Chicago Bears, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Windy City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From Soldier Field to the next great chapter, the Bears Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into the Bears Squad Show here on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel. Joe George, Adam Sager, Lauren Cox here with you as the Bears get their 4th straight victory of the season, taking down the Saints 26-14 on the day. There's a lot to get to on the show, from the defense, the run game, both A-plus games from those departments. We'll talk about what we saw from Caleb Williams, the offensive line, and some of the ugly stuff we saw in this one, from the players to the officials, once again becoming a story of a Bears football game. I'll leave it open to you, Adam, to start with you. This game was what?
This game was weird, but what we've watched in the NFL through these first 6 weeks is kind of what we're getting all over the place. Bears came out, they ran the ball, and they were flying around on defense. And sometimes that's enough to beat a bad team, and they didn't even really need the pass game that much today. But yeah, it was a weird game to me.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things where it's like you dominated early on, and you, or I'm not, I guess you were a slow start and then dominated for a while, and then Saints climb back in, and all of a sudden it feels like almost not that you're playing with your food a little bit, but I kind of wanted to see this team really kind of establish it for 4 full quarters and be the clearly dominant, better team. And all of a sudden, chunk plays to Chris Olave down the field, and you get in the end zone, and you look up in the third quarter, and it's a 1 possession game, and you're like, what the heck? What happened? This the 2 different teams. It felt like you were playing there, but obviously, I think the talent gap between these 2 teams was enough where the Bears had a lot of margin of error that they were able to overcome. That you can get away with more in a game like this.
Yeah, I think this game was good, but it was not satisfying. I feel like there's a lot to be desired still, specifically from Caleb Williams and the offensive passing performance, because as we start to touch on here, the defense and the running game, both those things were so excellent basically through this entire game. Like, outside of the 2 Olave plays, and he's a good, talented player. We all kind of know that. It's just he's hurt so often you don't see it. But yeah, I just feel I'm glad they won their 4th straight game. It's a good job winning and holding on for the victory. But I just feel like there's still a lot to be desired outside of this one. Weird's also a great way to put it, because it was a weird game. Because I never felt like the Bears were going to lose, but I never felt comfortable either.
Right. Yeah. There was a lot of meat left on the bone, I think, when it comes to the passing game and stuff. And there was a couple big plays that I thought, one was taken away on that throw to Swift that they called Loveland on. A couple other throws that I thought, but the most frustrating thing to me watching the offense today was Caleb Williams be outstanding in his pocket presence and moving around and avoiding sacks, and then trying to force the ball when he has open lanes to run. I don't care if he's picking up 4 yards. Pick up 4 yards. Unless it's 3rd and 10 and you need it bad, you have to make the play and pick up 5 yards. And it may bust and you might get 10. But that was the most frustrating thing to me watching this passing game, was Caleb avoiding all these sacks and then not taking advantage of it with his legs.
Yeah, and it's kind of a strange thing to add to the weirdness here, where it's like, and yet the Bears won, and won handily. Like, we've seen back-to-back games where Caleb has not played great, and it hasn't stopped them from being on a 4-game winning streak right now. Like, we thought this team would kind of go as far as Caleb Williams would take them each week, and kind of live and die by whatever he gives them. And there wasn't a ton from him today, and it doesn't matter. And I think it matters big picture, but it didn't matter in the outcome of the game. And it speaks to the kind of, I guess, first of all, the progress they've made in the running game, but certainly on defense, and the team that they've been able to build around the quarterback, so that, they don't need him to be the hero all the time or be perfect all the time. And he's got to do more to learn that, and not try and do so much, because he's trying to do everything and not succeeding, and they're still winning. But imagine if he just tried to do a little bit less, they could have much more comfortably, I think, controlled this game.
Yeah, I think back to the Thursday show we did together, Lauren, and we pointed out that play where he ran it last week, but Roma Dunze threw his arm up in the air. it almost felt like watching this game that Caleb Williams also watched that play multiple times and was like, oh, I could have hit Rome there instead of just taking the easy first down like he got. Like the entire game, I was like, where is that play from last week? Let's talk about the good stuff. We'll get back to Caleb. You mentioned the run game there, Lauren. 205 yards combined between Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift, 2 touchdowns. And Lauren, this feels like the Monangai breakout game a little bit, but also Swift just being excellent once again.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that both running backs were able to break out some big runs tells you the offensive line was dominating throughout. And no, that's not to take anything away from either of the running backs, because they both made some really impressive runs. And Swift's speed and decisiveness, I mean, he just looks more decisive the last couple of games. Like whether that's because the hole is easier to see and clearer, or if he just has the mentality of like, hey, I'm just going to go, I'm just going to push it, I'm not going to wait for perfect. Either way, it's ripping off these big chunk runs. It's not just like, it's not just like, oh, you're getting 4 consistently, but it's like, oh, you're really, gashing the defense in a way where it looked like the Saints just didn't have any answers.
Yeah, I think the way Swift is running the ball, he's gone back to his just one cut days where he sees it, he cuts and he goes, and he doesn't hesitate at all, where he was hesitating a lot since he's been in Chicago. Now he's more decisive, as Lauren said. But again, this is all about the offensive line, in my opinion. Not all, but it's a lot about the offensive line. Darnell Wright makes a huge difference when he's in the game, especially in run blocking. Him and Jonah Jackson on the right side are tremendous at it. And Benedict and Tooney are really good at it too, which is really nice to see. And Dahlman's good at, they showed it multiple times where he'd help double and then get to the linebacker. So I think the offensive line, and I think this just is everybody, including DeAndre Swift, getting a little more comfortable in Ben Johnson's offense that he has designed for Caleb Williams in this offense. So I think, I don't know that we'll see these big chunks of yards every single week where it's 200 plus rushing yards, but when this offense continues to get more applicable with this offense, I think that sky's the limit for this run game.
Yeah, and I think, too, we got to credit the guys on the outside again, because, again, another week in which they're not actively involved in the passing game. Roman Dunze doesn't have a big day. DJ Moore doesn't have a big day. But every run play, you see the wide receivers. They're engaged. They're blocking their ass off. Like, these guys are all bought in as well to the Ben Johnson scheme of what it looks like. This is, to me, like the biggest takeaway from since the team post-bye week is just whatever Ben Johnson in those meetings was showing DeAndre Swift, it seems like it just resonated with him. And he just looks like a totally different running back these last 2 games. And to your point earlier, Lauren, it's, you don't need Caleb Williams to be Superman to win the way they're playing right now, especially with the way they're running the ball.
Yeah, it's just nice to see a game where they ran 32 times they handed off the ball there. That's not something we've gotten to see a lot of so far under Ben Johnson, just because they haven't been able to establish it this way and then stick with it that way. And to be able to kind of sit back and say, yes, this is the engine of the offense. Like, that felt more like what we were expecting coming into the season, where we thought, okay, yeah, Ben Johnson's gonna have a good running game, and then it's gonna take some time for Caleb in the passing game to get going. Like that wasn't the case the first handful of weeks, but now it feels like we've gotten to that point where they got to slow things down with him, with the quarterback, but can absolutely turn and hand it off to, even Roshan Johnson had a nice run in this game. Like, everybody's eating in that backfield.
And I think as long as this keeps going and we keep seeing, you play the Ravens next, who have struggled stopping the run, I think that it's going to open up a play action game for Ben Johnson and DJ Moore and Rome and everybody in the passing game. So I think it'll pay its dividends even more as this season continues.
Yeah, and I like what they pointed out there at the end of the broadcast, that they were just essentially running the same plays over and over again. I mean, the Saints knew exactly what was coming, especially like that final drive before the completion to Loveland for the first down to ice the game. They're in basically the same formation, running the same exact play with 2 different running backs, and the Saints knew exactly what was coming. It didn't matter, and that just speaks to, again, the offensive line just dominating, the Saints front, especially when, like, early in the game, like, the Saints were causing problems in the passing game from the screens to the quarterback pressure. But in the running game, this offensive line just feels like they've taken a step forward as well.
It was crazy to see the 2 tight end formation where they'd motion to the other side. They'd line up the exact same way, and then they'd run opposite. The Bears would run opposite to the right side, and they'd pick up 10, 11, 12 yards. It felt like every single time, and the Saints just sat there like, I don't know what they're doing. Like, what do we like? This is the NFL. You think you'd figure it out, but man, the Bears just wore them down with those same few runs.
Yeah, we saw them use multiple tight ends a lot more in this game than we've seen. Certainly last week they kind of went to more 11 personnel, and even when Cole Kmet was injured and left the game, like Durham Smythe came in and played quite a bit too, which is not always my favorite thing, but it definitely, at least in the running game, seemed to be a big help factor there. And I wonder now, depending on the extent of Kmet's injury, like is this the turning point where Colston Loveland kind of starts to take a bigger and bigger role? Like it felt really symbolic. There was a moment in that game when they were near in the red zone when Cole Kmet has a false start. He comes out of the game, and next play they throw it to Colston Loveland on an out route. I was like, yeah, that feels like something is changing here slowly. It's not going to be like drastic drop off right away, but I think we're getting the beginning stages of that transition.
Yeah, I think so too. Adam?
I also think that if you watch Colston Loveland a lot today when he's in the game, his blocking's a lot better than people realize. And I think he's showing, it takes time for a rookie tight, especially a tight end, to show that you can block at this level. And I think he's shown Ben Johnson enough that yes, he will start taking these snaps from Cole Kmet each week. And if he's injured, you're going to see Colston Loveland, and we may not see a lot of Cole Kmet the rest of the season in terms of just being the solo tight end out there.
Lauren, what'd you make of the passing game overall in this one?
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like there's still a lot of like disjointedness. I mean, how many different false start and offensive and illegal formation penalties did we see on offense? I think Kmet had one, Theo Bennett had a couple, Colston Loveland had a couple penalties in this game. One was the offensive pass interference that, but yeah, so I mean, it just feels like this is still, it's going to keep being a work in progress, and there's going to keep being mistakes like this that you just need more and more and more reps to keep cleaning up. But I don't have like a good singular like solution or answer of like, oh yeah, they just need to, they just need to do this slightly differently and then everything will be fine. It's like, no, there's still, I think Adam was right. Like it was Caleb trying to do a lot of different things and trying to do too much and not just taking the easy stuff. That was a big part of it, but still I think that there's a lot of different factors that go into that besides just purely quarterback decision making. It's where the receivers are in the routes and the timing, and then the pass protection in front of that. Like a lot of this for me still falls on Caleb's shoulders, but there's more to it than that too.
Yeah, I think when you look at the passing game, we just talked about Colston Loveland taking snaps from Cole Kmet. It's time for Luther Burden to start taking snaps from Olamide Zaccheaus, because he's just not any sort of weapon, really. We saw him get the ball in the end around, nothing. He's hesitated, and I think it was Loveland made a good block there, which could have, at least got him 4 or 5 yards. Instead, he hesitates and lets the backer come up and hit him for a loss of 1. So it was just, that's a frustrating thing. And the other big thing to me watching this game, and it's only a couple times, but Rome Odunze has to catch the ball. When it hits you in both hands, right in the middle of your hands, you have to catch the ball. And that was twice on big plays, which, I mean, would have been another probably 40-plus yards for Caleb in terms of just passing yards, but they would have been first downs and continue to drive. And this keeps happening, these 50-50 balls, if you want to call it. But in my opinion, those balls were more like 75-25 balls that Rome has to catch as an NFL top 10 pick wide receiver.
Yeah, I think Rome's kind of, in terms of like how this offense has gone so far this season, we focused a lot on the run game, the passing game. I'm with you. Like Rome just has to, especially the one where he had good positioning, where he was coming back towards Caleb Williams and it hits off his hands and the defender's not really there in terms of like making a big play. He has to come down with that. You need somebody on the offense to do it. And that's clearly not going to be, DJ Moore. Like it seems like when Caleb is scrambling, Rome's the guy he's mostly looking for. Like there's clearly a connection there. And to your point too, Lauren, about like being disjointed, and while it wasn't the best throw and it hit off the Saints defender's head in the red zone, DJ's not even looking for the ball there. And even the one he had where it was the quick out route and it was a perfect throw, I really still feel like he wasn't really ready for it. It just kind of was put perfectly into his hands there. So just still feels like there's just that, it's just disjointed on offense, from the quarterbacks to the wide receivers to the snap count. That's still a huge work in process in the passing game.
And it feels like something that, I mean, eventually we're going to run out of patience for, right? I mean, it's week 7 and there's not really a good excuse besides, well, it's their first year together, but how long does that last? It's one thing if receivers are injured and haven't been practicing, or if quarterback wasn't out there, whatever it might be, but like it's been all these guys running all these plays together, and pretty much all of them have been pretty consistently healthy throughout the season. And we are willing to be patient for now, but like if we're still seeing this in week 10, is that, where's the threshold here where it's like, all right, like it's been long enough. You got to have this figured out. But for now, it doesn't hurt you against a team like the Saints, but that's going to hurt you against teams like the Lions and Vikings and Packers coming up later in the schedule.
Yeah, I think it ultimately
100% agree.
Yeah, I think it just ultimately comes down to the fact that they keep winning. Like that, it's winning just covers up a lot of the mess, and like especially in immediate reaction and things like that. People don't want to focus in on as much as the bad things that happen. But as you're winning games, I saw someone tweet like this is like very 2018 vibes for the Bears. We'll talk about the defense here coming out of the break, but we're just the run game's working, the defense is working, the passing game is not. But because they keep winning, everyone's just like we're not crushing it as much, but I think for me, like we're getting close to from like Lauren. I think we're getting pretty close to where like I'm tired of what we're seeing from the passing game, from all of the miscommunications and just not being on the same page. It's because it hasn't bit you yet, but it felt like in this game you could have won this game by 30 points if you were clicking on offense. You could have done what the Lions did to you earlier this season. Instead, it's like feels like a game for most of it, and it just shouldn't have been.
And I'm definitely at that point for the penalties specifically.
Yes.
You can't be having, I don't know what the total number of false starts ended up being in this game, but I remember at least 3. Like I'll give you 1 per game from someone's allowed to make a quick little mental mistake.
Yeah.
Cole Kmet's doing this every week. And I guess Theo Bennett's a new starter, so you can kind of give him a breather maybe. And Colston Loveland's a rookie, so maybe you can kind of give him a little bit more patience. But like it's stuff like that across the board where it's just you can't be doing that in any week, but especially like now we're in week 7 going into week 8 next week. Like how do you not know the snap count? Like how is that not being communicated clearly enough at this point? It's one of those weird things where we got to give Ben Johnson and his coaching staff all the credit in the world for all the great things they're doing, and yet some of this communication stuff also feels like a coaching thing that they need to be better about.
All right, let's take a break here. Let's talk about what we saw from the defense. Another day in which they forced multiple turnovers. The Bears now lead the NFL in interceptions on the season, and for the most part, they shut down the Saints in this game. We'll get into that next year on the Bears Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's SAD. Software as a service. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. By uniting your employees, teams, and departments in one system, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, busy work, and silos your software created. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNFL for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. Today's show is also brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. There's a special discount promotion live on the board right now for the Golden State Warriors versus Los Angeles Lakers game on October 21st. Steph Curry is discounted to only needing more than a half a point to win. Mix and match players from football, basketball, and baseball to build your dream lineup today. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Lauren, what's your thoughts on how the defense played in this one today?
I keep wondering when the turnovers are going to slow down.
Yeah.
And I think it will eventually. It's just not, it's not like they're going to just go from, 3. They're going to do it 3 every week for the rest of the season, but it might not just drop to 0 either. But yeah, I mean, I think they're doing a really good job of being aggressive and knowing when and where to be aggressive. And it's kind of a difficult balance of like, Dennis Allen isn't going to blitz every time, all the time, but when he does, it's been very effective with Kyler Gordon getting home and Jaquan Brisker getting home a couple times, and one got a roughing the passer penalty, but like I'll take it, absolutely. So, sometimes they're gifted one by a quarterback overthrowing the ball. Sometimes TJ Edwards had a diving interception that he wasn't able to hold on to. So I really like the way that they're attacking and playing with a lot more confidence. And I think the first couple of weeks of the season, it just felt like, especially guys in the back end, were doing a lot more thinking than just playing fast and reacting. And now you're really seeing everybody a lot more settled in.
I also think it's just Dennis Allen's defense fits this particular, the back seven. I think that it fits them a lot better. Tyreek Stevenson, who left the game hurt, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point, but it fits him much better. And I think that's something, Joe, you and I had talked about, in previous shows, where it was just like, he's more of a man corner, and that's what Dennis Allen likes to play. And it's shown through these first 7 weeks of the season that he can play that at a much higher level than sitting in zone, where he's just not very good at it. But having TJ Edwards back, having Kyler Gordon back, having these guys healthy, and then just allowing Dennis Allen to blitz even more because you have these guys you trust a little bit more instead of the younger players, I think is really helping this defense as well.
Yeah, seeing Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker in the backfield as much as we did today, whether it was on passing plays or running games, like, we felt like this was the first time this season now we felt like the real impact, it felt like, of both these players on the roster. Because Brisker started slow, but the last 2-3 games, he started to play much better. You're hearing his name more. You're seeing him make the impact plays. And then Kyler Gordon today was just all over the place. But, I mean, even that interception from Byard, I mean, yeah, it was a lollipop up there, but he went a long way to go get that thing. Kevin Byard has been
and he should have had a second one.
Yeah.
If Nashawn Wright doesn't knock it out of his hands, I mean, that's a second pick for him in the game, and we would have had 5 turnovers for the Bears defense.
Yeah, but Byard has just been, he looks much more like the guy you signed than the player you got last year. So the defense is just, I'm with you, Lauren. Like, can this keep up turnover-wise? But I also think you hit it on the head where, are they going to get 3 or 4 every week? No. But do I almost feel like now we should expect this team to get 1 every week? Yes.
And I think it's a lot to do with the aggressiveness of Dennis Allen. That's why they're getting some of these turnovers. It's not just fluke plays where it's tipped up in the air and, it just, or a wide receiver tips it up in the air or whatever. Like that last interception where Jackson, I'm going to blank on his first name, but he comes in, and DeMarco Jackson, and he hits Alvin Kamara, which disrupts the play. And then TJ Edwards is able to make the play. So it's just the way they're playing, I think, is really forcing these turnovers. And it's a credit to Dennis Allen and his defensive scheme each week is why we're seeing a lot of these. Not all of them, but most of these turnovers.
And I think there's this sort of cumulative effect here, right? Where the more aggressive pass rushing and blitzing up front gets more pressure on the quarterback and creates, worse throws or forces the quarterback to make more difficult throws. And when they're getting more of a pass rush on the quarterback, then the secondary can play more aggressive to get after some of these balls in the air. Like, I think that's part of why Kevin Byard is playing better. Like, the safeties start playing better when the pass rush starts playing better, and the pass rush started playing better helps the cornerbacks play better, which helps the safeties play better. There's just sort of this build up effect of like, okay, once you start to unlock part of this, everybody else kind of builds off of that momentum.
Yeah, I think the pass rush, again, like, they're not getting home a ton, but we're seeing another day where I feel like Montez Sweat was also good in this game, like making an impact on getting to the quarterback. It wasn't just the blitzing guys. So overall, I think the pass rush is also taking a positive step in the right direction. Like, I'm not all the way bought back in that this team's going to be making a huge impact, because there's a lot of times where Rattler had time to throw back there. The Byard interception's one of them, obviously. But that also, to me, feels like, Adam, that the pass rush is taking a baby step forward at least right now.
Yeah, I definitely think it's taking a baby step forward. You still don't have that guy that you just trust to put in the game, and he's going to put a pressure on the quarterback in a big moment. You don't have that guy. You're hoping Montez Sweat would be that guy, but I think he's just going to kind of be a splash play guy, as we've seen, really since he got here. He started really hot with the Bears when he was traded here, and then since that hot start, it's kind of been downhill. But if he can continue to make some special plays like the forced fumble, recovery, sack, everything, and then you get Austin Booker back at some point, which we were hoping was this week, hopefully next week, Hopefully he can be a guy that puts a little more pressure on the quarterback in 3rd and longs and stuff like that. Dominique Robinson hasn't been awful. Like, I'm shocked he made the roster coming out of training camp, but he hasn't been awful. He's put some pressure on in some big spots. So, but the guy I'm still waiting to see more of is Javon Dexter. Like, the pressures aren't there, in my opinion, to where they need to be for what we thought he was going to be. Even without a dominant defensive end, I still expected him to be better than he's been this season.
Yeah, it seems like the flashes haven't necessarily been there for him. Like, I think he's holding up better in the running game, and like,
agreed.
I'm seeing progress, small ones, but like, you want to see that, like, that big play, that difference making play, where it's just like, no, I think he's doing his job. And in some ways, it's like that with Montez Sweat too, where it's just like you want to see a little bit more. You mentioned, he's started hot. Like, yeah, same in this game. It has the strip sack on the first drive of the game. I think one of the first drives of the game, and then kind of quiet most of the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And when the defense is playing this well and generating turnovers elsewhere, like, you don't necessarily need more from him in a game like this against the Saints. But again, you wonder when the quality of opponent's going to be a little bit better as the schedule goes on. That's when you need your most expensive players or your highly drafted players.
Mm-hmm.
In Dexter's case, like, that's when those guys have to step up and make big plays. And so far it hasn't cost them, but we're kind of just, we kind of know the Saints aren't the threshold here that we're measuring ourselves against.
And Lauren, we talked a lot last week too about how the Bears defense did against the Commanders and their running attack. Now, the Saints running attack is not as good, obviously, as what Washington was bringing to that game. But you hold Alvin Kamara to 2.8 yards per carry, I think it was, or 2.5 yards per carry. They don't really use Kendry Miller in this one, so a lot of that's game script. But what did you see from the run defense overall in this game?
Yeah, it seemed like they picked up largely where they left off against the Commanders in terms of the playing more base defense again than we had seen kind of earlier in the season. Not afraid to have DeMarco Jackson in there as that third linebacker on the field with Ruben Hippolyte as a healthy scratch is another like little footnote on this game that we may need to come back to at some point in this conversation. But no, I think they could stay a lot more aggressive again and go more single deep safety, put Jaquan Brisker at the line of scrimmage a lot and up in the box so that, that's why there were some of those deep opportunities there for Rattler and why he wanted to take those shots, because the Bears weren't just sitting back with 2 deep safeties and trying to force everything underneath. They could stay aggressive and physical up front. And I think the blitzing that we saw in the pass rush was also part of why we saw some of the blitzing in the running game too, that helped shut that all down.
Yeah, I thought Andrew Billings played a nice game today. He seemed to be right in the middle in those that 4th down. He was a big part of that stop there where the Saints rushed and didn't quite understand that from Kellen Moore's perspective, trying to rush up to the line and then just hand the ball off. And Montez Sweat made a big play in that one as well, which was when Tremaine Edmonds was trying to switch spots with him and he kind of shoved Sweat to the side and it put him right in the hole where Kamara was coming. So that was kind of lucky, but also Montez Sweat is good against the run. So overall, yeah, I think they're playing well. And again, I think it's a lot with TJ Edwards coming back. I think that helps the run game a lot, which allows Dennis Allen to blitz more in run packages, knowing that you have a guy you really trust in TJ Edwards instead of the youngster and Noah Sewell out there in those certain positions. So yeah, I think just getting healthier is helping all facets of this defense, but the run game, I like what we see these last couple of weeks, and I hope they can continue to build off of it because they've got Lamar Jackson probably and Derrick Henry coming soon.
And playing with the lead helps too. It
does.
Only had 17 running plays in this game. Kamara had about a dozen carries or whatever it was. So like, yeah, the last couple of weeks, like when you've been able to be ahead a little bit on the scoreboard, doesn't even have to be a huge lead, but just the Saints feeling that pressure of saying like, okay, we can't just keep handing it off for 2 yards here. And that maybe if they stick with the run, they could break something eventually, but they don't even have enough time to stick with that and try and build up against your run defense.
Yeah, it does feel like next week that won't matter, right? Like the Ravens will probably try to run with Derrick Henry no matter what, even if they're down early in the game. So like we'll see the Bears get really tested again next week when Derrick Henry and the Bears play. We did see Tyreek Stevenson leave this game and it did not return. I mean, a position that's already beat up with Jalen Johnson, being out for a while, and now you see Stevenson leave this one. Deshaun Wright leaves for a couple plays after the brutal collision that he caused with him and Byard. So, Lauren, where do you stand now with the secondary, and what's your concern level going forward as we wait to hear the severity of Tyreek Stevenson's injury?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when you felt like you could get by where Nishan Wright was going to be like kind of your clear weak link. And you can, okay, if you can trust Stevenson and Gordon and Brisker and Byard, that you can get by with one hole in the secondary there. But now the plan in this game was Nick McLeod came in and played on the outside and Kyler Gordon stayed in the slot, which I was curious to see if they would move Gordon around, maybe move him to the outside in that moment, but they did not. They went with McLeod. They brought in Josh Blackwell for one play of the dime package, but other than that, it was the McLeod show. And I don't like my outside cornerbacks being Nick McLeod and Nishan Wright. Like it's just not those are not NFL starting caliber cornerbacks there. I know Wright had a nice interception on the ball that was thrown behind the receiver, but like there's going to be a lot of boom or bust there. And again, they're fine against Spencer Rattler and the Saints, but this Ravens offense, if Lamar Jackson's back out there, they put up a lot of points. And even though their defense is terrible, they're still a very good offense. And I'm a lot more nervous about being able to hold up. And I wonder if it's this ripple effect where, okay, 2 backup cornerbacks that for injuries. So then you got to have 2 deep safeties again, because you can't trust these guys. So then you can't load up the box as much. So then your run defense isn't as good and you can't blitz as much. And then, kind of falls apart, but just kind of unravels a little bit the strategy that had been working.
Yeah, I'm terrified when I look at that cornerback room without Tyreek Stevenson and with Jalen Johnson out. I mean, we know we have Kyler Gordon, who is at his best when he's in the nickel. I was wondering the same thing, Lauren, if they would put him outside and allow McLeod to be where he's at least practiced mostly, I'm sure, when Kyler Gordon was out. But yeah, it's not good. Hopefully it's just something that he needs a little bit of rest and he's going to be fine this week. Hopefully, cross your fingers. Hopefully it's not a multi-week thing, or else they better get some guys in and get a tryout done and get somebody in this room that is a veteran of some kind. Now, it doesn't have to be this great player because obviously those aren't out there, but some sort of veteran that can help just keep things calm with Nishan Wright and McLeod out there. That's terrifying to me on the outside.
Yeah, from a big picture perspective, as the Dolphins are probably going to fire their head coach today, like I also would be willing to start calling other teams for the cornerbacks. These teams are at the bottom of the barrel, because even if the Bears like playoff aspirations or not, like this cornerback room, if Stevenson's down for any amount of time, it's maybe you can get by versus Baltimore in the fact that Kyler Gordon can follow Zay Flowers throughout the rest, throughout the entire game, and you need your outside guys be guarding like DeAndre Hopkins and Rashad Bateman. But going forward, like you're going to need more if Stevenson's out. But you know what? Injuries are weird. Like we all thought Grady Jarrett was going to play today, but because of the field conditions, they decided to hold him back, which is a very savvy move, I think, from this front office and this coaching staff to not risk him being out there. And Jalen Johnson will be back at some point too. So, all right, let's take our next break here. When we get back, let's discuss more specifically what we saw from Caleb Williams in this game. That's coming up next here on the Bears Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every single model. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence throughout almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Ben Johnson, meeting with the media right now, frustrated. I was looking at a couple of his quotes, just talking about not being efficient in the passing game. Obviously, the offense not complementing the defense with the amount of turnovers they've had the last 2 weeks or last 4 games. It's 15 turnovers over the last 4 games, which sounds even more absurd saying it out loud as we just talked about it. But Lauren, just your overall thoughts on Caleb's performance today and what went wrong in this one, because he obviously wasn't very good in this game.
Yeah, and the thing that stands out to me is like it felt a little bit different than the other ways we've seen him struggle, just in the sense of like earlier in the year, it would be like little inaccuracy issues where it's just like, oh, like the ball's going in the right place. He just put a little too much on it or took a little too much off of it. It was a little low, a little high, a little in front, like trying to just dial in with precise footwork and pinpoint accuracy was a little bit more the issue. And in a game like this, I don't specifically remember him missing too many of the layups, right? But it was taking these big shots downfield and staring down Odunze on the interception play where Rome's got to fight back for that football too as a top 10 pick. Like it's not Rome's fault, but like he's falling away from the ball in the corner as the cornerback's attacking it. Your wide receiver's got to help out the quarterback there a little bit on that play. But yeah, the deep accuracy felt like something that we had seen really click the last couple of games where you get hitting these guys downfield, and then in this game just can't quite dial that in the same way. So you just want to see, you want to see that progress continue in some of those areas where, okay, happy to see the easy throws connecting a little bit more, but now we're back to trying to uncover some of the other stuff that has been that are popping up as either new issues or issues that we thought had been not necessarily solved, but more or less put to rest.
Adam, you're muted.
Caleb, I thought, was interesting in this game from the aspect of avoiding sacks. He was tremendous. Again, we go back to what we were talking about earlier, forcing the ball. But I mean, if Rome catches that one pass, he's coming back to the ball, which was a clear hit him in the hands. Then there was the other one where he's going towards the sideline that I thought, you just catch the ball. Like that's not on Caleb at all. Then if he gets that play to Swift where they call the offensive pass interference on Loveland, I mean, now we're talking about another 75 yards ish.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, and now, his numbers look completely different with those three plays. And yeah, there's some stuff you don't like. There's some stuff, but it never really feel like they took the big shot today. Like we saw a couple times last week, they took deep shots and it looked like it was part of the game plan. You didn't see it much today, where I think if you're Caleb, you want to stretch him out, at least stretch the defense out a little bit early in the game, and then he could start working. But when it comes to this, I think there's some on a little bit of everybody here. I also thought Ben Johnson came out a little conservative to start the game with the weather, kind of see how the playing surface is with the passing concepts and everything. I thought it was a little conservative than he's been over the last couple weeks. So I think everybody had a little part in this, from Ben Johnson to the offensive line to Caleb Williams to the wide receivers.
And there's something to be said too about like when the running game is working so well, you don't need to pass it that much. Like, right. And you can say, well, maybe they're running so much because they weren't passing so well. Like it does go both ways there. But like for example, both the touchdown runs were in the red zone and at the goal line there. If those are passing plays instead of running plays, Caleb might have a score or two on his box score, and it looks a lot better than 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, and under 200 yards. It's like, well, no, the running game's working so well. Make them stop that first. Why? No need to pass. No need to put a lot of extra reps on tape there for defenses. Like, no, just run the ball 30 plus times and don't worry so much about what the actual final numbers say. Like, I'm much more concerned about some of the decision making and forcing it than like, oh, his completion percentage and yardage total and touchdown interception ratio. Like they won the game. Like I'm not so worried about the exacts of the box scores.
One of the things I think is interesting, and these stats won't be exactly perfect because they were put out by the broadcast. Like I think it was like in the fourth quarter, but they showed this during the broadcast that against the blitz, Caleb Williams today was 5 for 5 for 80 yards. When there was no blitz coming from the Saints, he was 7 for 17 for 63 yards in this one. There's only a handful of passes after that, so it's pretty accurate from what Caleb did on the day. That to me is something that is now going to be interesting, at least going into next week. Like, is there something that Brandon Staley, who I totally forgot was the Saints defensive coordinator, like, is that something he saw from Caleb Williams that maybe is going to get picked up on by other teams? That if you don't blitz him, he's struggling, he's not hitting the easy stuff, and you can a lot of times also get home with 4 guys, because while he did a great job avoiding sacks, he should have been sacked a lot. He would have been sacked probably 6 or 7 times if this was Caleb Williams of last year versus what he's been doing this year. So that to me is one that's is important to keep an eye on, I think, for next week in the season going forward. Is just like, what does it look like when, are these teams all going to key on that, or was it just like a 1-game sample size and, the weather and everything, Caleb didn't have his best day?
It feels to me like a thing where when the blitz comes, Caleb knows I can't go big game hunting here. Like the blitz is coming, it kind of forces him to take the easier throw and get rid of the ball a little bit quicker. Whereas like when there's no blitz, he kind of feels a little bit more open and entitled to say, oh yeah, I got some time here. I can try and make something happen here. And so in some ways, blitzing him almost, it forces him to not be smarter with the ball, but it forces him to kind of just take what the defense gives him in the way that I think we want to see him do more, even when they're not blitzing him. And so I think in a game like this, you didn't see the blitzes generally, really get home or really get in pressure or lead to those extended plays. A lot of those plays he extended were regular 4-man rush type of plays that he just has the confidence to take the time to try and do more than maybe you want him to.
And Brandon Staley's more of a zone type defensive coordinator where, that's where you got to go back and you really got to look at like all 22 so you can see the whole field and see what kind of concepts Ben Johnson is calling against these set plays, because sometimes if you call a man play basically and they're in a zone, it's hard for a quarterback. He's got to be able to see it. And if a receiver stops and sits down in a zone because now it's zone, he isn't expecting that. So there's a lot of aspects to it when you're talking about this. I think that a lot of it too is just like Lauren said, when he gets moving out of the pocket, use your feet. And then if someone's open, then throw it. I think last week with a lot of people coming out and kind of killing him for that one play where Rome was running down the field with his hand up and he picks up the first down by running for 5 yards. It's like, he's still a young kid. He's still just 22, 23 years old. He hears that. And then all of a sudden he's like, okay, well, here you go. And then he's trying to do these throws. And it's like, that's where being young, you're still learning. This offense is still newer to him. There's a lot of aspects that are going on out there right now. And yeah, things could be better. But again, the Bears are 4-2 in the NFL, which we just saw the Bills lose to a bad team last week. We just, it just get wins however you have to in this league right now.
Yeah, the other part of like Caleb taking off and running more is I kind of want to give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt in this game specifically, because while I think all of us were shocked when we saw what the field looked like before, like we do know what Soldier Field really is. And the fact that it was it was raining and it's coming down, like we know it's a slippery surface. So because there were times where maybe the fumble plays that we'll talk about in the next segment, the snaps, where I feel like he just didn't have his best footing at all times. So I do wonder, like, did he feel confidence in literally the ground beneath him to feel like he could take off and run on some of these plays? Because now it didn't affect the running backs, but this is kind of a new experience for Caleb too, where like you're playing in these conditions where you're used to playing at, Oklahoma, USC, like you're not since high school, like you're not really playing in a lot of these games anymore.
Yeah, I find myself feeling like, yes, Caleb Williams is a young quarterback and still developing and stuff, but also I do want to hold him and this team to a higher standard of like, that's no excuse. Like, you can't, you're going to face this all over. And if you're going to be the great number 1 overall pick quarterback and aspire to be the best quarterback in Chicago Bears franchise history, like great ones find a way to overcome all of this kind of little stuff that yes, can it be a factor? Sure. But should we allow it to be a legitimate factor or like a meaningful factor? Maybe not quite.
Yeah, I think on a day two, like when you see what's happening in New England, where Drake May sets the franchise record for completion percentage in a game. He completed, I think it was 91.3% of his passes in this one. Like Drake May has taken that huge leap this year. Like he has surpassed Jaden Daniels to this point this season. He has surpassed Caleb, everyone. Like he has taken his game to another level. And what you're saying earlier, like with just the offense in general, Lauren, I do think with Caleb too, I think it's a great point you just made. Like we should hold these guys to a different standard. Like I think I'm with you. I'm there pretty much where it's like, this is next week. Like you've had 2 bad games in a row where you haven't really taken advantage of what your defense is giving you with the amount of turnovers they forced. Next week versus Baltimore, he has to be better. Because Lamar's not going to give you the ball like that, most likely. Same with Derrick Henry, who I guess he fumbled a lot earlier in the season. But, like, you're not going to get as great a field position, everything next week versus Baltimore, a team that has been, their last 2 games defensively tell 2 different stories. But it's next week, like, you got to have a big game against a defense that's beat up pretty badly.
And you're not going to have the margin of error either for mistakes to get away with it. It's going to be a shootout, and you're going to need every little yard and point you can get, because it's going to test Dennis Allen's defense quite a bit too. And you can't count on them. You just can't count on 3 or 4 turnovers bailing you out every single week. Maybe they'll get them again next week, but you can't keep relying on that as your primary strategy here. And
that's where you have to, if you're Ben Johnson and company, you have to clean up these mistakes in the red zone. And that's what really cost them in this game because, we had the 2 bad snaps under center. We had the 1 bad snap when he was in shotgun that he had to reach for and bobbled, had to pick it up and just take off. So these mistakes plus the Colson Loveland, false start, there's just too many mistakes that forced field goals today that maybe if they don't have those, maybe they score on that one where they botched the snap when they were going for it on 4th and 2 or 1, whatever it was. Maybe they score when the shotgun snap on the play. Maybe the play was perfect and it would have been a throwing touchdown. There's just so many things that those mistakes are limiting them that, yeah, they could have scored 40 points today. But when you make those mistakes, it hurts you.
All right, let's deep dive into a couple of those because the snapping thing is starting to become a real concern for me at this point in the season. Let's get to that next year on the Bears Squad Show.
The Bears Squad Show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. We're in the thick of the NFL season, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your $5 bet hits. That's right. You put down just $5, pick a bet, and if it hits, not only do you get the winnings from your $5 bet, but you're also going to get $300 in bonus bets you can use all across the app. So maybe you want to bet on next week's Bears-Ravens game or any other game, any other sport, any prop bet, you name it, all in the FanDuel app. You put a $5 bet on, you win it, you're getting some bonus bets. It makes your football Sundays that much more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action, whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats. FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started.
All right, the snapping stuff. We got 2 times this year where Caleb Williams looks like he's not ready for the ball. It feels like maybe it snapped early. Today we have the high snap that affects the Bears. Then we have 2 times in which Dahlman, the first time, doesn't let go of the ball, which I don't know if I've ever seen that one before, guys. Like that's like Pee-wee football stuff. I've never seen that one before. And then the next one, he double pumps it and gets a penalty that saves the Bears from a turnover. I don't know, Lauren, like, just what do you think is going on here? Because this is bizarre that it keeps happening in some kind of form.
I don't have a good answer for you because it'd be one thing if like he's really struggling out there, like in the blocking department, and you're like, it's kind of like a yips thing, where he's thinking so much about the blocking the defensive tackle across from him. He's so worried because it's Aaron Donald on the other sideline, the other side or whatever. Whoever the player is, and it's like, okay, maybe you can try and explain some sort of situation where he's just not as focused or, he's distracted about, something else in the game. But like, there's nothing here. Like, I thought he was pretty good in pass protection, pretty good in the running game. Like, I didn't see a lot of issues on the interior of this offensive line once the ball was actually snapped. So I'm really left scratching my head wondering, but certainly I think given how much money they paid him in free agency, he absolutely has to be better. And you need more from your prized offensive line free agent signing.
Hey, Joe, you mentioned Pee-wee football. My son's play. My son is a quarterback. I have not seen a bobbled under center snap this season yet from my 10-year-old son and his center. Not one. And we saw 2 today from the Chicago Bears. Yeah, it's a big issue. And it almost felt like, especially that second one where he flinched with the ball and then snapped it. It's almost like you hope this doesn't become kind of a yips thing where he's just starting to press even more and more. Hopefully somehow they can get in this week and just calm everything down for him because it is an issue. And it's not the only game today. It's not like it's just a one-off where, oh yeah, there's just some mix-ups here and there. No, this has happened multiple weeks and it's a big problem, especially with when you're Caleb in shotgun. If you have to worry about a snap just being fired at you at any point, now you're taking your eyes off the defense. Now you're trying, you're thinking more about that than okay, are they in zone, man? I got to put someone in motion. I got to do this. I got to remember what this guy's doing. Where's my check down? All this stuff. If you got to worry about the snap too, that's just another layer on top of making it that much harder to play the hardest position in all of sports. And that's the quarterback position.
Yeah, it's concerning. It's for like 3 games. And it's weird that I think from what my memory serves is the Bears have won all 3 of these games in which that there have been major snap issues. So it's kind of like some of the other stuff we talked about.
Maybe keep it going, see what happens.
I guess like maybe it's their lucky charm. Like, have a bad snap and it gets you the victory. But like it's gonna bite you. It's like if next week, like you have Roquan Smith on the other side, like if you have a bad snap, like Roquan might just grab that thing and house it against the Bears. So it's to me, of everything that's happened with the offensive line, it's false starts and snapping. Like that has to get cleaned up, Lauren, going forward.
And it's just one of these kind of like unexpected offensive line issues, right? Like we kind of thought maybe, Jonah Jackson would have some ups and downs and some injury here and there. And we fully expected left tackle to have challenges and now, a full starting lineup change. But like, and maybe we even thought Drew Dahlman he's not perfect and he's going to make mistakes sometimes in blocking. But like one of the few things we were certain about with this offensive line is like, oh yeah, this experienced center is going to be able to exchange this. Like we know Joe Tooney's going to be good, and we know at least that Dahlman's going to be able to snap the ball pretty well, and that Darnell Wright's going to hold it at right tackle. And like this is one of those things that seemed to be like it was not even a whisper of a concern about his ability to consistently snap it here. And yet here we are in week 7. Again, it's not like week 1, new quarterback, new center thing, but like week 7, these guys have now done this. I'm sure between training camp, preseason, and 7 regular season games, they've certainly snapped the ball 1,000 times, right? I mean, presumably in terms of
at least
they have practiced, we've had to hit 1,000 snaps by now between center and quarterback. Maybe not all under center, so maybe that's part of it. But like, there's no new center, new quarterback excuse anymore. These are veteran center and an old enough quarterback. Like they should have this down.
Yeah, and it's just frustrating to watch from a fan standpoint. I mean, Theo Benedict out there at left tackle takes over for Braxton Jones. Yeah, Chase Young beats him a couple times. There's a couple, the second bat down where it just hit Chase like right in the chest, basically. I want to see Theo Benedict go and hit him. Don't wait for Chase to come to you, especially when that's the play call. You go get your defensive lineman. I can understand those little hiccups with a new guy coming in the lineup, but like Lauren said, it's week 7. You can't have snapping issues at the NFL level. High school level, okay, maybe something, but even that would get old. In the NFL, you don't expect to see a botched snap all season long, and we saw 3 today, and now we've had 5 or 6 over the past couple weeks. It's brutal.
The other what you just mentioned there with Chase Young, that's my other one that I'm just like, this is going to bite the Bears. It reminded me of what Max Crosby was doing. One of these defensive linemen is going to take those things back for a pick 6. Like they are. Whether it's the left tackle breakdown, like it seems like it was so this is 2 left tackles now you're having this issue with. This isn't just Theo, like this is a Braxton Jones issue too. So maybe is there an argument it's on Caleb or is it too obvious what's happening in these moments from a play calling perspective? But there's been too many times this year where the defensive end is, if they were a linebacker are housing this thing, or if it's JJ Watt, it is a pick 6. Because they are throwing it right to these edge rushers, Lauren, on these screen passes. And it's not bit them yet, but it feels like it's going to.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that there's like a great solution there, because the Bears are going to run screen passes. Like that's part of what Ben Johnson, and they're pretty successful at it too. Like it's absolutely worth doing. And even if you were going to run like, the fake screen and then throw it deep, like the defensive ends are still going to be coached like, hey, watch the quarterback for those quick passes. Like they're going to be looking for it every time. It's not even like it's so predictable that we know a screen pass is coming here. It's just hey, when you're taking off upfield, just keep an eye on the QB. And like, he's going to be keeping an eye on the QB, whether he's throwing a screen or whether he's throwing it elsewhere. And like every time he turns to throw that screen, they are going to be looking for it. So, I mean, unless you switch to like a tunnel screen, where you're working towards the middle of the field, not a straight sideline throw to the flat, like that's about the only thing I can think of. Right? And maybe some of the running back screen stuff, but those wide receiver screens to the outside, that's just the nature of how they're constructed. And it's smart defense for them to be ready for it. But I'm not sure what else you can do there other than try and get a better block on them from the tackles to go be more aggressive on those plays.
Yeah. And I think that just is up to Ben Johnson and Dan Ruchard, the offensive line coach, and the OC, and everybody getting together and being like, okay, how can we fix this obvious problem that we're having in the screen game? But while we're talking about plays like that, I think Ben Johnson can get rid of that one play where I think it was DJ Moore he put in motion where Caleb faked the toss to, and then here comes Burden following directly behind Moore, who he hands it off to and tries. That play I don't think would ever work. I would not like to see that play again, because normally when you want it, you're trying to get the defense going one way and then you go back the other, not take them that way and then still bring that ball the same way 2 seconds later. You're just giving the defense a head start, and it was clear because Burden had no shot. There was nobody there blocking set up for a hole or anything. So I think he can get rid of that play, but it's an issue.
Yeah, and then Cole Kmet, who we mentioned earlier, again, like, yeah, he left this game with a back injury. We'll wait and see. But, man, the amount of penalties on him, this doesn't, I don't know, maybe it's in the moment, trying not to be, but this doesn't feel like a thing that was happening last year or with the multiple quarterbacks that Cole Kmet has played with. He's played with so many different quarterbacks in Chicago. But this year, for whatever reason, with Caleb, it is something with the snap count that Cole Kmet cannot just get right. And that one has hurt you this season. And it has been an issue. It's not like the screen or the snaps that have really bit you before. The Cole Kmet ones have bit you and been a problem this season. So that one, I'm fascinated to see how this plays out going forward.
And at least there, as much as I'm big on harping on Cole Kmet about that, like, we are seeing penalty issues consistently across the group. I mean, they had 10 in this game. So, like, that tells me that, yes, it's partially a Cole Kmet thing because veteran players should not be doing that. But also there seems to be a bigger collective problem there, whether it's coaching or communication or something that's not working for everybody. Like, if it was just him every week having 2 false starts, but no one else was doing it, I would be a lot more like, okay, something has changed for him. I still think he needs to be better at it, but like the fact that Theo and Colston and other guys every week seem to be, there's illegal formations and false starts, tells me it's a little bit more systemic than just like, oh, Kmet is in his head incorrectly.
And if I was going to guess, like, full picture, like, this probably includes the snapping issues, whatever is going on with the false starts. Like, this is basically a false start on Dahlman. It feels like when he's doing these snapping issues. So it's just, yeah, it seems to be a larger thing that we heard a lot about in training camp with like formations and penalties and everything like that, and getting set up correctly. The operation of the offense. That to me is what also is just not taking that step forward either at this point in the season.
And I'm still looking at some of these penalties. We talked about the Loveland one a little bit already. That was, a terrible call. But the holding on, was it Billings? I think they called defensive holding on the inside where, he clearly has the guy like right here and he's not going. And it's not just the Bears that I'm saying. I had the Chiefs game on. It felt like every time the Chiefs threw the ball, a flag was out. It didn't matter. It went both ways, but there's just flags everywhere at every NFL game, every college game you watch. There's flags everywhere. It's just, I don't know if it's the officials feel like they need to police every little thing, or the NFL is all over these officials to try and police every little thing. But there's just so many flags when, quite frankly, there doesn't need to be. Like, this is football. It's a violent sport. We got to remember that. This is a violent sport. Kyler Gordon, it's not like he led with the crown of his helmet and speared him square in the head. He didn't. He was moving upward and everything. And yes, I know player safety and all that, but we have to remember football is a violent game. It's going to be violent. There's going to be injuries.
It's more about the illusion of law and order and safety in there, right? Like, people have to believe that it is being protected, even when it probably realistically isn't being well protected. Even if they called everything, it's not all still protecting from injuries there. And yeah, the referee problem is, at least it feels to me like it's pretty universal. I think a lot of Bears fans like to believe that they are like they're singularly targeted by the referees and disliked by referees and treated poorly by referees, and other teams aren't. But you turn on NFL Red Zone and you watch other games across the league, like, everybody's dealing with this. So at least it kind of feels like, hey, this is not just, it's not just us. Like, we're all in this, all seeing this, and it's a universal problem.
All right, that's Lauren Cox. You can catch him Monday through Friday right here on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel with his Locked On Bears podcast. You can make sure you hit that subscribe button here on YouTube, plus wherever you find your podcast as well. Lauren, myself, and Taylor Dahl will be back with you on Tuesday night at 6:15 for another midweek edition of the Bears Squad Show, as I nearly lose my voice at the end. For Joe George, for Lauren Cox, for Adam Sager, we will talk to you guys next week. Have a good one.